Hello.
जय जय हिंद, जय भारत एंड वेलकम टू डेफ टॉक्स। दिस इज आदि अचिंद। आज हमारे साथ हैं अरिंदम साहब, जो चलने के लिए एकदम तैयार हैं। नमस्कार, गुड इवनिंग एंड
Good
वेलकम टू द
evening. Good
शो।
evening.
आज हम
Thank
बड़ी
you.
एक इंटरेस्टिंग बात करने वाले हैं, क्योंकि देखिए कहीं ना कहीं व्हाट इज हैपनिंग इन द रीजन इज दैट जो एसिमेट्रिक वॉरफेयर होती है, द वॉरफेयर विच इंक्लूड्स टेररिज्म, प्रोपेगेंडा, ये वो ग्रे जोन वॉरफेयर, वी कैन सी दैट बीइंग एम्प्लॉयड अगेंस्ट टू बिग पावर्स। ठीक है, वन इज रशिया एंड वन इज चाइना। एंड मैं आई जस्ट लीव द टू इंसिडेंट्स। एक इंसिडेंट हुआ मॉस्को में, हमको सब पता है, आई हैव कवर्ड दैट इन डिटेल। काफी हद तक
Mm.
उसके काफी चीजें बाहर आ चुकी हैं। एंड द इन्फ्लुएंस ऑफ आईएसकेपी, influence, I'm saying they're not ISKP guys, but influence is pretty much known. Training, some sort of work has been done. And दूसरा अटैक होता है चाइनीज के ऊपर within days of that, where 5 Chinese, officially, unofficially 16 Chinese have lost their lives. तो
Vaporized.
ये, हाँ, वेपराइज, एब्सोल्युटली। तो ये पहले तो यार ये बताओ, व्हाट्स हैपनिंग हियर? इज देयर अ कनेक्शन? बिकॉज when something stinks, there is Pakistan in the middle of it.
Okay, so good evening, Adi, and good evening to the viewers. Been traveling a lot, in the month of March, hence I couldn't make it to your, podcast. When I've been traveling during this time that I was traveling, those few free moments that I would get, I've been thinking about my favorite topic, Heartland and Great Game, and really wondering that the great game that we know as great game, is that great game, or is there a greater game being played? ये करते करते ऐसा है कि now I'm thinking I would probably, if I can manage to master about 5-6 chapters, then maybe the probability of a book. That's what I'm thinking. I mean, it's too early, but yeah. So यही सोचते सोचते, there were a couple of things that came into my mind. Number one is, if you look at the features, the prominent features of the second decade of 21st century, it's like 2010 to 2020, the result of a flattened world, we've seen that वैसे 2010 से नहीं, 2000 से ही पकड़ के चलो, 2005 2006 से पकड़ के चलो, it all started coming into effect, this flattened world, globalized flattened world, which Friedman loves to talk about, the world is flat. उसमें जो एक मेन चीज हुआ है वो है democratization of the internet, and as a result of that there has been a diffusion of technology. Now, the moment you see diffusion of technology, you see a lot of up and coming, energetic, enterprising, chota states and all making great progresses. People like countries like Malaysia, country like Thailand, countries like Dubai. With or without money, you would, the more diffusive technology is getting, the more people are becoming at par with each other. And at the other end, you have this technological master, the guys who used to, pioneer technology. United States stalling because cutting edge आना बंद हो गया. If you take Google as an example, Google का last product क्या था? The पिछले 10 साल से उसने कुछ product नहीं निकाला. Okay, they're just an overpopulated organization, manning a lot of people, throwing out a lot of people, but no products of their own, so to speak, no cutting product of their own in the past 10 years. As a result of that, as a result of no large-scale wars, armies had become fairly robust. So you have a fairly robust Iranian army, you have a fairly robust North Korean army, you have India, which has got an army which is robust. You've got a lot of robustness, so to speak, in the army, in the defense sector. And it was not just USA and USSR that was leading. You had several contenders. Abhi kaun first है, कौन second है, irrespective. If there is a war, we saw, right? हाँ, अभी और वॉर चालू हो गया तो रशिया यूक्रेन में देख रहा है ना कि रशिया was at least theoretically so much more powerful, and yet like it's going on for the last 2-3 years now. Another feature that came across is that the adversaries who united, this talk I'm like trying to speak on express the point of view of United States. So the adversaries of United States were like, now they were like, they possessed nukes, nuclear weapons. At the other end, you had the stirrings of multipolarity, BRICS and SCO and this and that. Abhi to de-dollarization ka bhi chal raha hai. So in a sense, it was a true anarchic system where बोलने के लिए तो है, you have a superpower which is the United States, but you've got a fair amount of rise of power in economy, in in military, in technology, and all happening across in different countries. Whether they are, you know, looking for a problem with the United States, trying to create problem for someone else, that's a different thing. But there was a general, uptick in the standards of all of these things, so to speak. That was the time. 2019 was the time. अभी हम लोग को सबको पता है कि यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स likes to wage asymmetric warfare. 2019 was a time when Rand Corporation specified certain things about Russia, and that was probably the first time when, अभी इंटरनेट का क्या है यार, तुम रिपोर्ट निकालोगे तो वो कैसे भी हो अवेलेबल हो जाएगा, सबके पास आ जाता है, as long as it's there. So Rand Corporation ने क्या किया था, 2019 में उन्होंने एक रिपोर्ट निकाला था, and the report was how to contain Russia. उसमें the highlighting points, the specific points that they dealt with, the features that they dealt with, actually applies for a lot of people, applies to a lot of countries, so to speak. Rand का highlights क्या था? First the sanction. Okay, so economic sanction, supply chain sanction, tech sanction. Now tech sanction forms a very interesting part, जब हम जिसको लेके हम बात थोड़ा कर सकते हैं, जब चाइना को लेके बोलेंगे. Then वहां दूसरा सैंक्शन के दूसरा एंगल क्या था रैंड कॉर्पोरेशन के, डेमोग्राफिक. अब डेमोग्राफी में देयर इज अ वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग थिंग व्हिच दे सेड कि जो हाई आईक्यू बंदा है उसको वहां से निकालो. So if India has high IQ banda, if Russia has high IQ people, if China has high IQ people, if Iran has high IQ people, get them out of that country. Lure them, get them out of the country, get them to come to the United States. We push in very low IQ tribal immigrants into their country. So that's been specified. Okay, yeah. So it was sanction को लेके बाद में बात करेंगे. Demography एक था. एक आ गया जब मिडिल ईस्ट का जहां तक सवाल है, आ गया ग्लोबल वॉर ऑन टेरर एंड रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी टू प्रोटेक्ट. ग्लोबल वॉर ऑन टेरर एंड रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी टू प्रोटेक्ट बेसिकली कुछ नहीं है, अनऑथराइज्ड बार्जिंग ऑफ आर्मीज वेरेवर पॉसिबल. टारगेट तब भी था, अभी भी है, ईरान. सो ईरान को सैंक्शन कर चुके हैं. ईरान में डेमोग्राफिक कैस्केड चेंजेस कैस्केड करने का बहुत कोशिश चला. देयर इज अ लॉट ऑफ इरानियन हु आर स्टेइंग इन यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स एंड दे आर pretty liberal and global, and so to speak. They like United States, they don't like the Iranian regime, and so on and so forth. लेकिन global war on terror का जो cover था, that global war on terror was an exercise which was completely later on mutated into a kind of an exercise keeping Iran in mind कि यार ये eventually all the roads lead to Tehran. Either it's through Damascus or through wherever, the roads lead to Tehran, और तेहरान को ही करना है अपने को खत्म. छोटा मोटा states, smaller weaker states, but those who are strategically located, उसके लिए color revolution. When it comes to conflict, there were two categories specified. One was indirect territorial conflict, one was direct territorial conflict. Indirect territorial conflict, yeah, is your proxy fighters. So ISIS को घुसा दो, इसको घुसा दो, उसको घुसा दो. Direct territorial conflict is what is happening in Ukraine, which is the last straw, so to speak. So these are the asymmetric strategies which Rand Corporation dealt and talked about and expressed in fair details in their report pertaining to Russia. A lot of analysts like Chosdovsky and all, they say कि यार ये तो पिछले 10 साल 15 साल से चल रहा है, तुम लोगों ने
Okay, wait 1 second. I think we've just lost his network. कोई बात नहीं, आने दो वापस. We will talk about that. बड़ा interesting तरह से explain कर रहे हैं. So we'll just wait for him to come back. अब देखिए ये great game का part है where you also are talking about great power competition. इसके ऊपर एक बड़ी interesting writings हैं और talks हैं इनके, क्या नाम है, प्रोफेसर जॉन मर्शाइमर के. अगर आप ये देखें, you'll kind of realize how great powers actually behave. एंड इस टाइम पे जो ग्रेट पावर का जो ये इसका जो बिहेवियर है, इट इज ऑल अबाउट बेसिकली गेटिंग द यू नो गेटिंग होल्ड ऑफ द सिचुएशन एंड किसी तरह से उसको पकड़ के रखने के लिए, ठीक है। बिकॉज द ग्रेट पावर जो एक मेन पावर है विच इज अमेरिका, अमेरिका ने अपनी पावर पकड़ी हुई है, ठीक है। दे वर देयर, दे वर पावरफुल, नाउ देयर आर कंपेटिटर्स कमिंग अक्रॉस। जिस तरह में रशिया इमर्ज कर किया थोड़े टाइम पहले, इट हैड सर्टेन पावर, रशिया का अपने रिसोर्सेज हैं, और वैसे भी जो हार्टलैंड थ्योरी इज टू कंट्रोल द वर्ल्ड। चाइना इज राइजिंग एज अ ग्रेट पावर, तो उसके अंदर क्या करना है। द सेम एप्लीकेशन जो होता है, जो बहुत लोग बोलते हैं कि साहब ये भारत पे इतना क्यों उल्टे सीधे काम होते हैं, इट इज बिकॉज द सेम एप्लीकेशन आपके अगेंस्ट में ऑलरेडी स्टार्ट कर चुके हैं वो, कि आप उस लेवल पे पहुंचो ही ना कि कहीं ना कहीं यू आर एबल टू challenge, put a challenge to the West. So they will try these stunts and they will try these games to kind of get these great powers to come across and कुछ बात करने के लिए। मैं इसको और एक और तरह से डिस्क्राइब करता हूँ। आई कॉल इट द डोर स्टेप वॉर पॉलिसी। डोर स्टेप वॉर पॉलिसी के अंदर यूएसए ने बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग सी चीज करी है, एंड वी वर गोइंग टू टॉक अबाउट इट, सो आई जस्ट वेट फॉर हिम टू कम बैक। डोर स्टेप वॉर पॉलिसी के अंदर एक बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग सी चीज करी है कि जितनी भी बड़ी बड़ी पावर्स हैं, उस उनके घर के बाहर, दरवाजे के बाहर एक आग लगा के रखी है। सो इफ यू लुक एट ऑल द बिग पावर्स अराउंड द वर्ल्ड, जो और इमर्जिंग पावर्स जिनके अंदर पोटेंशियल है, देयर इज अ फायर इन फ्रंट ऑफ देम, ठीक है। व्हेन यू सी द, लेट्स से लुक एट रशिया, ठीक है। रशिया को देखो, देयर इज अ फायर इन फ्रंट। यूक्रेन काफी टाइम से चल रहा है। जॉर्जिया 2008, देयर इज अ फायर व्हिच कीप्स ब्लोइंग अप इन आर्मेनिया, अजरबैजान, कोसोवो, सर्बिया। तो उस तरफ यूरोप के अंदर रशिया इज गॉट इश्यूज। सेंट्रल एशिया में आइए, यहां पर किर्गिस्तान में कभी प्रोटेस्ट हो जाता है, कभी इधर पे कुछ हो जाता है। देयर आर टेररिज्म इंसिडेंट्स एंड देयर इज ऑलवेज द प्रॉब्लम कि यहां से अफगानिस्तान के रीजन से सेंट्रल एशिया के अंदर कितना टेररिज्म ना फैल जाए। तो अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल आर देयर, अ लॉट ऑफ यू वुड बी सरप्राइज्ड टू नो दैट कई सेंट्रल एशियन कंट्रीज के जो बॉर्डर्स हैं, साउथ सदर्न बॉर्डर्स हैं, आर स्टिल मैन्ड बाय रशियन ट्रूप्स। सो दैट इज वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग। आप इधर आके देखिए, भारत चाइना, भारत पाकिस्तान, देर आर मल्टीपल दिस थिंग्स, राइट। ही इज बैक, ओके।
Adi, I am really sorry, my Wi-Fi has crashed.
नो प्रॉब्लम यार, वो मैंने बोला ना, डीप स्टेट का अटैक हुआ आपके ऊपर।
So am I live?
या यू आर लाइव। मैं ऐसी, ओके, सो
Okay.
व्हाट आई वाज टॉकिंग अबाउट,
Yeah.
I took the discussion जहां पर आप लेके आए थे। You want to set this up before we, this thing, I'll just give you the premise of what I was talking about, कि यार ये जो डोर स्टेप वॉर की पॉलिसी इन लोगों ने, they kind of applied. What did the doorstep war policy do? The doorstep war policy basically created a war in front of every great power's house, ठीक है ना।
Yeah.
आप रशिया देख लो, यूक्रेन, जॉर्जिया, अबकासिया, that entire region, उसके बाद आर्मेनिया, अजरबैजान, the war in the Caucasus, Serbia, Kosovo में issues, ये वो, all that stuff is there. Then you also have, you come down towards this way, you've got India, Pakistan, India, China, Taiwan, North Korea, China, Japan, North Korea, South Korea. So there are a lot of issues in this entire belt. जितनी भी great powers हैं, उसके आगे जाके आपने एक आग जला दी।
And I'll tell you something which is more interesting.
हाँ जी।
तुम वो खत्म करो, फिर उसके बाद मैं बता रहा हूँ तुमको something which is
I
more
thought that
interesting.
was a good. I thought this was a good continuation to what you were saying, कि भाई containment of the great powers by the so-called greatest power.
Yeah.
तो हाँ, please.
And this is happening only because of the fact that while others are making progresses in terms of conventional manufacturing, tech manufacturing, and everything, United States is stalling. Its economy is stalling. Okay, no matter how much of dollars you keep printing, there's got to be a limit. Sometime, somewhere, somebody has to pull the plug. तो इसके लिए it's like मेरे से नहीं हो रहा है तो मैं तुमको भी नहीं करने देगा. So that's the whole thing which is happening. Now, as far as what were we talking about? We were talking about Russian sanction. So Russian sanction किया था उसने इसी expectation में that Russian economy is going to crumble, which it did not happen. In fact, Russia has restructured the economy and they are now prepping for the long haul. Immigration. हाई IQ रशियन को निकालना, that has not been very successful. Indirect territorial conflict अभी शुरू हुआ है. We've seen the terror strikes in the terror attacks in Moscow, and direct territorial fight तो एकदम ही है. बट इसमें एक इंटरेस्टिंग सा सवाल है कि डायरेक्ट टेरिटोरियल फाइट अभी क्यों है. रशिया in 2015, when Russia attacked the United States' position, which is ISIS in Syria, they did not get into a direct confrontation with Russia. Why now? And then a very interesting thing, which all the viewers I would like kind of request them to take a note of, is the fact that Russia has attacked in Europe.
आपका ना ये जो कनेक्टर है थोड़ा सा, you just put it back inside, it's kind of cutting in quite a bit, थोड़ा सा, yeah, sorry, but there's a little bit, or you can just remove it. I'm sure the regular volume will be great. Okay, guys, by the time, yeah, okay, fantastic, he's back. Here we go.
I'm back. I can see you. Yeah, I can see you now. Can you hear me properly?
Now I can hear you properly. पहले बहुत थोड़ा disturbance था यार.
ये वीडियो बंद कर देगा. Okay. Let me try by switching the video off then. Okay.
No, you're fine.
I'm sorry for the trouble. Yeah. So
not at all. Let's go. You're fine.
Okay. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So फिर कहाँ था? I was saying that the main reason why they have like gone in for a open confrontation and a direct territorial conflict with Russia is the fact that 2015 में Russia did not attack some country in Europe. 2015 में Russia had intervened on behalf of Syria, which is a country which is in the East. उसमें जितना लाखों मारे कोई किसी को नहीं आता. But this time around, Russia has hit Europe. That is where, like, that is the, from United States' angle, that is a cardinal sin, which Russia is not supposed to commit, which it has committed. That is why there is a direct territorial conflict now. So you have Russia, which is clamped down, no GWOT there, no responsibility to protect there. You have economic sanctions, you have indirect territorial conflict, you have direct territorial conflict, and remains to be seen what happens. चाइना का interesting है. चाइना का इकोनॉमिक सैंक्शन डायरेक्टली नहीं कर पाएंगे because of the global supply chain of conventional manufactured products. Okay, because China is basically United States is made in China these days. We all know, right? So उसको economic sanction ना करके, direct economic sanction ना करके, what they have done is they have moved into sanctioning China, putting in tech sanction on China. Now टेक सैंक्शंस ऑन चाइना का जब बात करेंगे तो चाइना का कुछ डिसएडवांटेजेस है, चाइना का कुछ एडवांटेजेस है. चाइना का डिसएडवांटेज ये है कि देयर हैज बीन अ फ्लाइट ऑफ फॉरेन डायरेक्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट, बिकॉज एक एंगल से, एक तरह से कन्वेंशनल मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में आजकल एफडीआई ज्यादा नहीं होते. Second reason why there's a flight of investment is because Chinese bank का वो interest rate बहुत कम हो गया, so people are taking their profit out which they used to stash in China. They're taking it out and they're putting it elsewhere. तीसरा कारण है, there are new markets opening up, markets like Indonesia and Malaysia and all. So there is a certain amount of money which is leaving China which is not coming back. So that puts China into a spot. China का ऐसे भी अपना इकोनॉमी खराब है, and those local banks, they have got a lot of bad things going for them. The housing is in a bad shape and all. The advantages that China has is China has got a extremely, it's the largest raw material supplier for the high tech industry. Again, a part of a supply chain which these people can not easily break out from. The second advantage that China has is that it's been a little late, but high-tech manufacturing is picking up. Okay, and if you have followed the news, latest news, I'm sure you have followed, Apple, Nvidia, Qualcomm, Tesla, etc. are trying to pressurize United States government कि अपने को जो those critical technology है जिस पे आप restriction डाल रहे हो, chip export पे आप restriction डाल रहे हो हम लोग के ऊपर, so that we don't send chips to China, उसका कुछ करो, because China is a chip guzzler, and not just because of their own semiconductor industry, it is because of a lot of finished products that China does, and all these manufacturing units are set up in China. And for obvious reasons, they don't want to shift from China because uska turnaround time अच्छा है, uska margin of error अच्छा है, कम है, uska digital marketing team बहुत strong है. They get better responses in China. So now the advantage that China has is that there is a huge demand, and China has managed to, pit Apple and Nvidia and Qualcomm, etc., against the United States government. And there is a sort of a debate going on where these people are trying to find out ways to, cut through the sanction in इधर उधर करके. एक रिपोर्ट भी आया था USCC का, अभी मेरे को फुल फॉर्म नहीं पता है. USCC ने बोला कि the tax sanction that we have put on China is not working, which is a pretty interesting thing as far as them coming out and saying that tax sanctions are not working is concerned. So you have China in a position with certain advantages, with certain disadvantages. China का biggest disadvantage ये है कि China, because China's economy is crashing, there are other places where United States has actually clamped on China, which is China's overseas business ambitions. One Belt One Road को अभी ठोक रहा है उसको Central Asian republics में. The Chinese investment in Russia, in Africa are taking a hit. China's investment in Pakistan has taken a hit. China's investment in Europe is taking a hit. So China, the only one thing that China is now banking on is China probably has got a window of about 5 to 10 years. I'm not sure. You are the China guy, you would be able to say. 5 to 10 years within which China is trying to, if China becomes a kind of a high manufacturing hub agar ban jata hai, and if China manages to ride this through, then China can be one of the leaders or probably the leader of the fourth wave of industrial revolution. Then China is home. If it doesn't happen, China is going to wither. There's going to be a lot of pressure on Xi Jinping that is going to come. They would probably be asked to, make changes to his political structure, his political party, and open up the market, blah, 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 sab kuch karke, becomes a US vassal, just like the way United States was planning and is still planning. So, ये है as far as China का, situation.
Arindam, let's do one thing. आप अपना earpiece
बोलो.
निकाल लो, because every time I think you're moving that earpiece is creating trouble, and I think you can switch on your camera. It should work. I think the earpiece was creating trouble.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, fantastic.
अच्छा. Wait.
Fantastic.
Let me just.
But yeah, आपका जो आप ये बोल रहे हो, you mentioned something about China. Let me just take that forward. China में, the problem, and I was following the CEOs who went there. काफी सारे वहां पर गए and all that. The feedback that is coming from there is they were disappointed on only one thing, that Xi Jinping basically ने बोला कि साहब, whatever you want to do, you kind of focus on to giving investment only in the state-run enterprises. Right, and he basically talked about the state-run enterprises, which are these big giants controlled by the CCP. The focus on the private sector, काफी लोगों ने बोला कि वहां पर इतना जो focus जितना हमको चाहिए था, what we were expecting for, they didn't get. They're saying यार वो इतना focus था नहीं. And some of the CEOs came out, obviously everybody's spoken incognito, some of the CEOs came out saying कि, we are hoping that there is some amount of dispersion of this central control that happens, which I don't think, this is one thing that is actually deterring a lot of these CEOs also to do business in China. कि हाँ ठीक है यार, अभी ये सेंट्रल कंट्रोल को कैसे हम लोग डील करेंगे, घुस तो जाए, पैसे तो बन जाएंगे, but how long can we kind of keep this up?
And that is what I was trying.
Oh.
Again, Ajay, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can.
Okay, I said that's what I was trying to tell you, that if China fails, then there's going to be a tremendous pressure on Xi Jinping to open up, to change the political structure, and just this point that you.
My God,
क्या
sorry
होगा?
guys, there seems to be a bit of a challenge with the internet today,
हाँ,
but चलो ठीक है, कोई बात नहीं. Okay, now that you're back, so you're saying if China, if this thing fails, it's going to be a bit of a
yeah.
channel, yeah, challenge for the Chinese to kind of hold this together. क्योंकि ये देखो, one of the things that we must understand in this game is China का जो Xi Jinping का game है इस time पे, he needs to kind of do something to survive. It's not, that simple. If Xi Jinping was stable inwards, right, and his army was stable, and his society was stable, his demographic was stable, he's got to do a lot of things. So that's something which kind of deters me from saying that I do believe Chinese are trying to restructure their economy quite a bit, but I also do believe that they will not be able to do it in the way that they are wanting to do.
देखो, China is never going to be able to do it in the way the West wants them to do. I mean, like, let's consider this to be a kind of a writing on the wall, because Western business interests trying to look at China, restructure China, is quite different from Western government, Western states trying to look at a restructured China. Western states would try to look at a restructured China which listens to everything that these people say.
Yeah.
Businesses would probably settle down for a lot less than that, as far as their business interests are not hampered and they get a certain amount of leeway. Either way, either way, whatever Xi Jinping has talked when he went to United States last, he's talked about a lot of restructure and all. That is all lip service, because this guy is not going to be the one to give away the control that he has so easily. He is, as I was saying, that the probably the way things are with over down and with one belt one road down and with the foreign investment down and with whatever everything that they have outside China in Africa and Europe down, or at least ठीक है यार 10% 20% को भी salvage कर लिया. I believe China knows that they have a window of 10-15 years tops, and they are trying to emerge on top of it. That's a huge risk which they are taking as far as this high tech manufacturing is concerned, and they are playing on with this gamble with the confidence that we are going to come on top as far as this high tech manufacturing is concerned. वो हो गया, then that's a risk China has taken, and it is paid off and China emerges the winner. If that doesn't happen, then it comes crashing down, and if China comes crashing down, it is going to hit Russia.
Now, I want to, just last 5 minutes, let's just talk about these two terrorist attacks that have happened, which actually brought this thought to me. आपने एक पूरा global angle लिया है, and you've kind of taken that quite in a very different way and very interesting way, I must say. But I want to come back to these terrorist attacks that took place, because I have kind of this whole thing that happened in Russia is quite as well connected to ISKP. This is something that we know. ठीक है, ये चीज हमको अभी समझ में आ गया कि भाई इसके अंदर कुछ गेम है. आई एम नॉट सेइंग आईएसकेपी के बंदे थे वो, बट दे आर trained or get some support from somewhere, and all that. And when you say ISKP, there's only one thing that comes into mind, and that is the Pakistani army. ठीक है, तो ये बड़ा दूसरा, you know I've been thinking about TTP's motives of hitting the Chinese, and this kind of opens out into a larger game. TTP का जो अपना मोटिव है टू हिट द चाइनीज क्या रहेगा? They don't have anything. They have done attacks on the Chinese before. एक attack, so called, and that's what the media says. I don't know whether it actually happened or not. But TTP has nothing against China, because TTP and TTA are the same thing. It will be very
Yeah.
difficult for the TTA to explain to the Chinese why their brothers did what they did, right? And the Afghanistan Taliban kind of needs China. ठीक है, तो ये जो चाइना पे हिट हुआ है, आई थिंक दिस इज बीइंग डन बाय द सेम ग्रेट पावर कंपटीशन, राइट, यूजिंग ऑफ कोर्स द पाकिस्तानी नेटवर्क. उससे दो चीजें होती है. चाइना भाग जाएगा वहां से, सीपीईसी का डब्बा गोल, एक प्रोजेक्ट उसने ऑलरेडी बंद कर दिया है. एंड दूसरी तरफ से यू आर ऑल्सो एबल टू सेंड अ वेरी क्लियर मैसेज टू बोथ दीज कंट्रीज दैट लिसन, द वे यू गाइज आर बैकिंग दिस होल इस्लामिज्म इन द मिडल ईस्ट, and you're riling up stuff in our neighborhood, in our house right now, we can do the same to you, and we can make you taste the pudding, as per se. So this, I think, is a part of great power competition. Aapka, what do you think about this theory?
I have another interesting angle. I'm completely with you, but I have another interesting angle which I was thinking about and
Hmm?
which I said I'm going to share with you. If you look at
Hmm.
the Eurasian present flashpoints of Eurasia, you have one which is going on in Ukraine.
Hmm.
You have one which is going on in Israel, but that is one which these people very dearly want you to take your focus off, and they don't want it to turn into a regional war. So I'll discount the Israel one. Um, you've got a Caucasus which is like simmering, which might come to a boil anytime, but it's simmering. You've
Hmm.
got a Central Asia which looks fairly disturbed these days, thanks to TTP and TTA and ISKP and whoever's there. And you've got a Pakistan-Afghanistan issue. Have you noticed one thing, Adi? The axis of conflict has shifted from rimland inside into the heartland. That's
I
what I
knew you
was.
would say that.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
shifting. So this is a major success for the United States.
Huh.
What was Finland so far has been gradually inched and gradually moved into the heartland region, and they are moving ahead with it, pressing ahead with it. So if we are talking about Chota win, this is definitely a win. Credit where due. This is a definite win for the United States. They've managed to push it inside heartland. उधर से दे आर ट्राइंग टू रिड्यूस चाइनाज रिगल रूम कभी इंडिया को बोल रहा है तुम लद्दाख को लेके करो कभी ताइवान को बोल रहा है तुम उसको लेके करो तो कभी वियतनाम को बोल रहा है तुम इसको लेके करो दे आर ट्राइंग टू रिड्यूस चाइनाज रिगल रूम so this is something which I thought I would share on that point. My fear is that push comes to shove, China is going to try to save its skin. That's been their historical behavior. And Russia is not going to, try and save its skin. Russia is going to go all out, and that could be a scary outcome for Europe. And Europe knows that. I hope Europe knows that. Russia is not China. They are not going to cut their losses and run away. They are all in it. They know it's essential for them. They're going to beat the hell out of people if it comes to that. So that's the only one thing which scares me. Other than that, like, this looks pretty interesting. There's some wins, some losses for both sides. Even United States is drained. It knows it's weak. De-dollarization is going to take a lot of time, so they know they have that time advantage. And
Space
बाकी
is
तो हम
there.
लोगों ने
Space
discuss
is
कर
there.
लिया. हाँ.
That's what I'm saying. तो कितना आप खींच सकते हो? See, and I say this about India also. Today afternoon I was discussing. I did a small show on India-US relations. मैंने बोला देखो
Hmm.
यार, they can't kind of stop you, right? They can't stop your growth today. वो करना बहुत मुश्किल है. You literally have to
Yeah.
reverse a lot of things, which is not possible.
Yeah.
So what would they want to do? They want you to they'd want to delay it, create a bloody
Yeah.
fracas somewhere, create a small little bloody theater of war, create an internal trouble somewhere, create a bloody fault line. कुछ करो कि you know थोड़ा डिले हो जाए यार.
Till the
Like,
time, till the time we have, we till the time we manage to come out with something which is actual, क्या बोलते हैं उसको, cutting edge, which again propels us to that position where we become a global superpower once again. तब तक के
yeah,
लिए चलता रहेगा, चलता रहेगा, चलता रहेगा. Or if somebody wins that gamble, if China wins that gamble, then it's China's. There's a friend of mine who says a very interesting thing. He says, Russians by their nature are chess players.
hmm.
Okay, so they do a lot of calculation, they do a lot of moves, permutation, combination, and they move. And Americans by their nature are poker players. They gamble, they take a risk, and then they see what happens. So when you're talking about an international warfare, you're talking essentially a chess player playing a poker player, and there can be no symmetry in that kind of a warfare. Having said
Yeah.
that, there's another point that comes to my mind. What surprises me is that both Russia.
1 second, 1 second. Can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now
I
go
can't
go.
hear you, Adi. Ajay, you can hear
You
me.
can't. Yeah, go. I can hear you pretty clearly.
Shall I try my headphones back on and see?
No, I can hear you pretty clearly, yeah. No problem.
Wait, because I can't hear you.
Okay. Guys, sorry, but sometimes technology just create a challenge, and especially जब आप चाइना से बात करो हमेशा कुछ ना कुछ होता है, हाँ. जहां पर चाइना
I
का
can hear
मेंशन
you now.
जहां पर चाइना का मेंशन करो ना कहीं तो किसी ना किसी को कब वो गड़बड़ हो जाएगा, कुछ ना कुछ सिस्टम आउट हो जाएगा, ये हो जाएगा, वो हो जाएगा, पता नहीं.
Okay, so as I was saying, that I find surprising is that both China and Russia has been reactive. Russia has had enough and more signals starting from 2014 that this is something which is waiting to happen. They could have put their things in place. They took 6 years, they did nothing, and then suddenly 2022, this bugger walks into Ukraine. That is one. So you've been caught napping, you've been reactive. Somebody is pushing your buttons and you are reacting. That is point number one. Point number two, even China is being China kuch had tak kiya hai. They tried to drive that wedge between inside the United States. They pumped in a lot of money to make their population go woke. They bought Disney, they bought XYZ. They tried to befriend Joe Biden in the craziest of ways. They've got a fair amount of influence in the Democratic Party. But again, push comes to shove. When you talk about the war aims of United States and the asymmetric warfare aims of United States, they are still the same. And these guys can only hope and pray that a Nokia and a Tesla and a Apple and a Qualcomm, they say, boss, enough is enough, we're going to invest in China. And if that sort of sets the United States back by a couple of steps. But on the whole, both these guys have been caught napping. And whatever they are doing is being reactive.
Yeah.
So हम लोग यूएस को कितना भी गाली दे, कितना भी वो लोग को कुछ भी बोले, they have got a couple of things right. You got to give it to them.
नहीं, फ्रंट फुट पे खेल रहा है साहब, फ्रंट फुट पे खेल रहा है. You're absolutely correct. वो फ्रंट फुट पे खेल रहा है, and he's able to actually click on balls where most of the other people will go out. So one has to give credit where it is due. There is no question about it. हाँ ठीक है, अनफेयर है, बेवकूफ है, इडियट है, वोक है, लिबरल है, लेफ्टी है, जॉर्ज सोरोस है, सब कुछ है, वो सब समझ में आता है. But you gotta give him credit when he's created
Absolutely.
that entire structure, and he's able to do the things that he's able to do, and that is something that you gotta kind of appreciate. Let's let's please like this video, subscribe to the channel. Most importantly, most importantly, spread the word about Dev Talks. And yeah, I was just trying to check my other monitors. Sorry, काफी लोगों के कमेंट्स आ रहे हैं. आदि सीमा जी कहती हैं, आदि interference in Wi-Fi is a common occurrence in many YouTube channels when they are discussing China. It's my observation. Did he have others seen it? I don't know. I mean, I do discuss China quite a bit. Certain times it does happen. It's quite a coincidence. But anyways, China.
मेरे साथ ये first time हुआ यार. It's never happened. Never happened while I'm like.
So I thought, let me just take a jump of China. Xi Jinping, China. Nothing happening. All right. Anyways, let's kind of do that. And of course, please, if you can contribute towards the Dev Talks efforts, the QR code is up there on your screen. And of course, you can use PayPal or super stickers, super chats, or become a member in the channel as well. Thank you so much till now. अभी तक देखो इतना बारे चाइना बोल दिया, शी जिनपिंग बोल दे, विनी द पू कुछ बोल दे, नथिंग, नो इम्पैक्ट. ओके, फेयर एनफ, लेट्स गो. यू कैन हियर मी, राइट?
बोलो यार. या आई कैन हियर यू. अभी कुछ मत बोलो, ऐसे ही है, मेरा चल रहा है फोन पे, चलने दो.
आपको नहीं हो, मेरे पे होगा. डोंट वरी. ऑलराइट, शी जिनपिंग सुन रहा है मेरे ख्याल से घर पे बैठ के अपने. तो बालाजी, थैंक यू सो मच फॉर बिकमिंग अ मेंबर. And AA, thank you so much. What do you think about Rotary clubs, etc.? Are they all US sponsors? I wanted to you to put light on it. Many Indians are unfortunately funding them by joining these clubs. Thoughts, sir?
I don't know in detail about every Rotary club, but most of these are non-government and non-profit and such organizations which are into a lot of social good and all, so-called social good and all. They do receive a lot of indirect foreign funding. So yeah,
that is true. That is absolutely true, sir. They do, and they have certain work. वो क्या BEI initiatives that they are given to kind of do stuff. Partha, thank you so much. He says, why is
Yeah.
East China more developed? What goes on in West China? Is it less developed because they feel it may break away? Might I, before you begin, Partha, might I recommend please
Please,
have a
please.
look at the NASA map of the China night. ठीक है? Look at the India night and look at the NASA map of China night. You will see the difference, and you will kind of see amount of light which is there on the streets and basic street lights and stuff like that. And just have a check. And you're a regular on the channel, and I'm sure you'll give us your feedback. Anything that you like to add?
See, East China is again ethnically Han Chinese. Han Chinese के ऊपर तो थोड़ा बहुत focus रहेगा ही. And okay, I might say that they don't like Tibetan people and they don't like Xinjiang, they don't want them to develop. ये बात कुछ हद तक तो सही है, but ये भी सही है कि the kind of expertise that you get to see in around the seaside region, the seaboard region of China, the East China region, is not something which you would find easily available in interior China. So that bit also is there. Second thing, third, दो चीज बोले. Third is that practically speaking, if you have a place like a Bangalore where you've got a ready infrastructure, where you've got ready everything, why would you want to move into, let's say, I don't know, a Dibrugarh in Assam, or a Dumduma in Upper Assam? You won't want to move there. So that bit of thing is also there. There's a kind of a peer pull which happens. If there are 16,000 companies in a particular region, there is no reason why you would want to put your company somewhere else just because of whatever reason. So that is also, that bit of thing is also there.
That's correct. That is absolutely correct. Okay, let's go to the next one. Vishalji, thank you so much. He says, drain out high IQ and pump in low IQ immigrants in other countries. Then what's the game behind taking massive illegal immigrants in the US? Shh, that's a
वो
secret.
तो वोट बैंक. that is that is Jyoti Babu's atma who has gotten inside Joe Biden's atma. So वो भी JB ये उसके अंदर घुस गया. अभी उसको भी वोट बैंक पॉलिटिक्स चाहिए. ये बांग्लादेश से लेता था, वो मेक्सिको से लेता है. अब क्या करेंगे यार?
That's a good one. But let me say this. There is don't be surprised if America suddenly has a 1 million-man army.
हाँ, ये लोग सब ड्राफ्ट कराएगा ना आर्मी में. Because none of the United States people want to fight there.
That's correct. Kapil Javeri ji, thank you so much. He says, Adi just tagged you on X regarding new bunkers in JNK. एक video तो बनता है उससे. Theory is that central government is preparing for POK acquisition. I don't think it will happen militarily. Your thoughts? Before I give my thoughts, would you like to give yours?
I don't see the point in trying to acquire POK. It doesn't make sense now. Geostrategically, it doesn't make sense. Gilgit Baltistan, it would make a little bit of sense, but then again, the fact is, ठीक है, I consider, I forget everything. I forget Pakistan, I forget everything. Gilgit Baltistan would make a little bit of sense if Central Asian region is stable. Central Asian region is not going to, अभी है कुछ थोड़ा बहुत stable है शायद, but it's not going to remain stable as long as United States' interest is there. Afghanistan is unstable. तुम क्या करोगे Central Asia का direct access लेके? So it doesn't make sense to me. POK, GB doesn't make sense. Plus, you get their population. It's not that as if you've got a say in their population. You get the population which is there, which is a very volatile population. To speak very softly about them, they're an extremely volatile bunch of people. उसको संभालोगे कैसे?
So today morning, unknown gunmen took out a guy called Maulana Abdul Qadir Nadeem. He was a major recruiter for the Hizbul Mujahideen in Gilgit-Baltistan.
Gilgit Baltistan.
Just to reinforce what you're saying. And point number 2, यार, tactically speaking, mountains के अंदर जिस तरह का warfare जो काफी लोग बोलते हैं कि बस घुस जाएंगे ले लेंगे ये वो and all that, mountains के अंदर घुस जाएंगे ले लेंगे means disaster. ठीक है, nothing short of disaster. तो हाथ में आके गिरे तो आराम से कैच कर लो, साफ सफाई कर लो.
साफ सफाई करना is important. Do you have the kind of spunk to do the kind of साफ सफाई that is required? ये भी है ना एक देखने वाला चीज.
Yeah. Rishabh Gautam, thank you so much.
जैसा नहीं रशिया तो जैसा नहीं कर पाओगे कि अभी आया सबको कान पकड़ के सबको डिपोर्ट कर रहा है. You can't do that
कान
for
पकड़ के नहीं,
whatever
कान
reason.
कान कान काट के जो
कान
टेररिस्ट के
काट
साथ
भी
किया
लिया.
उसको तो
अच्छा, कान काट भी लिया. तुम पता है वो नाइफ को उसने ऑप्शन भी कर दिया.
हाँ,
हाँ,
कैन
he
यू
auctioned
इमेजिन?
that knife.
या
Gutsy guy. अच्छा, एक
ऋषभ
क्वेश्चन
गौतम,
था.
थैंक यू. हाँ, thank you so much. There is a Chinese concept show weak when powerful. Is China being smart and preparing for something dangerous against Bharat? Most probably.
देखो, in the larger scope of things, in China's focus is not going to be exclusively on India because China has got a lot of problems. अगर problem को देखेंगे तो China has got, which is precisely what we've been discussing for so long. China has got its investment issues. बाहर का उसका जो investment है, China has got इसका foreign का investment that has stopped coming in, that has come down to a trickle. China has got a supply chain issue as far as tech transfer is concerned. China has got its own territorial issues in South China Sea. तो ये सब को छोड़ के there's no logic behind thinking that China is going to forget everything and jump into India. Why is this? Why should China suddenly be so obsessed about India? Yes, to tackle these problems, if there is strategy, if strategy to nahi bolenge, if there's a tactics which calls for creating certain amount of pressure on India across certain sectors, China is definitely going to do that.
Ji.
Adi,
I think
you are the China guy.
No. One thing, see, this is a question that a lot of people ask. Yaar, why, I hope the Chinese are not lying, which is very, very good to ask. But please understand, all these things, when something happens, something of this happens, all these propaganda, you don't direct it towards your own people. What we are talking about, the weakness of China, is something that gets published in Chinese media for Chinese people. So, अगर आप अपने लोगों को आप डाउनग्रेड करोगे, so then it becomes a big problem because you kind of killing your own population. There is something known as outward propaganda, there's something known as inward propaganda, and then there is something known as news. So the news of the slowdown is there in China. People do know about it. It is like that. So yes, China could be doing that, but I think the concept of showing weakness is more tactical in nature than strategic. In today's day and age, that is. So Troll says, watching you from Dibrugarh. Anyways, thumbs up. Jyotirmay also
sorry. No, but I have been there. It's a brilliant place. Yeah, I used to work in Hindustan ना, तो अपना डुमडुमा में टी फैक्ट्री था. Upper Assam is brilliant.
Yeah. Jyotirmay says, thank you so much. Firstly, sir जी, आप असम से हो क्या? डिब्रूगढ़ से मैं भी हूँ.
नहीं, मैं डिब्रूगढ़ से तो नहीं हूँ, पर मैं डी ना वाला ही एक जगह से हूँ. I am from Durgapur, West Bengal. It's a small town, so I am from Durgapur. But I've been to your places. I've been to Silchar, Tinsukia, Dibrugarh, because I was the regional training manager with Hindustan Lever. So Northeast was my territory along with Eastern India. तो बहुत जाते थे वहाँ पे. And I've got very good Assamese friend actually.
So, Rishabh, thank you so much once again for diverting limited action in seas possible. You are asking with regards to China or us? Either ways, China is too far away from India to do anything close to India's seas. One odd ship here and there is not strategic, and India doesn't like to go into their area and do anything. So
into their area, yeah.
It's a moot point actually. Okay, sir, सोनम वांगचुक के बारे में कुछ बोलिएगा. We want to know the truth about him. Sunday रात को join करिए. ठीक है? Please join on Sunday night. We will talk about it. Jays, thank you so much for this very important question. This is very, very crazy. 100 Uyghur refugees in Pakistan face deportation after Ramadan based on a new government directive.
So deportation back to what? Xinjiang?
Yep. Thank you, Udaygan Kado.
So but where is the question? I didn't understand.
No, that's the question. That's
statement. Just an update. Okay. Okay.
Troll says, your views on the flying bomb or the gliding bomb from Russia better than drone? Is it a game changer? You have anything to say? Because I do.
I have no
This is a
idea
very
what is a flying bomb or gliding bomb.
So what they've done is what the Russians have done is very, very interesting. Is that they've taken dumb bombs and they've put these flight kits, glide kits on it.
Acha.
Right, it's got two small
Acha.
wings and a tail and two things at the back, and a small motor.
Hmm.
So what that does
Hmm.
is, the dumb bombs are dropped like that, and their accuracy is a bit odd. These
Hmm.
glide bombs have a certain amount of
Hmm.
maneuverability, and they're able to actually go and hit the target pretty well. And these are kits that you put
Acha.
on these old dumb bombs, right? So what's
Okay.
happening is
Okay.
that the old World War II bombs जो पड़े हुए हैं इनके पास कुछ करने के इतने thousands of bombs. I mean, Russia has got an inventory of I think about 2.8 million of these 500-pounder bombs,
My
right?
goodness.
So they say this is a bloody breakthrough यार. तो और वो बॉम्ब के
Yeah.
ऊपर किट आते हैं और उड़ा देते हैं.
उड़ा
And those
देते
things
हैं.
have very deadly accuracy here because of these things. So small
So they're
guidance,
just warming up, which means.
yeah, yeah. So small guidance thing in the front and a small motor, and these things are pretty dead effective here.
Okay.
So, yeah. As a matter of fact, the Americans just delivered these kits to Israel.
Acha. The same kits?
Yeah, they call it glide kits.
So what, they found their way into Russia somehow or what? Like
No,
they
no, 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 no.
parallelly
The Americans had these things as well. So Americans have given
Acha,
them
acha,
because they
acha.
saw these damn things were effective. They gave it to the Israelis. कि आप use करो उसको.
Israelis. Okay.
Instead of firing your LGBs, laser guided bombs, which are very expensive, you use these. These are cheaper and
These.
this thing. Vipul Saab, sir, there are only three emerging powers post Cold War with potential to challenge the Americans, not West. The deep state isn't interested in Europeans who are merely pawns in the games of chess. Yeah, he's correct.
Yeah. Deep state
Yeah.
is not interested in anyone that is not willing to do their bid or that is not powerful enough to do their bid. So,
True.
and post Second World War, there is only one power left, which is United States, and that's about it. So,
Vishal, thank you so much. He says, per secret was, are they planning to have Pakistan as a replacement of
what
K?
PK as a replacement of K? नहीं
Uh,
समझेगा.
Vishal, मेरे को भी नहीं समझ में आया यार. अगर if you can please give us a clarification. Sanjay Mani Saab says, why China secretly increasing soldiers in Gilgit-Baltistan? Could it be recent posturing against Taiwan? Is a ruse to focus its actual attack on India, like Sun Tzu's make sound in the east, attack in the west?
These are tactical questions, यार आदि. ये मेरे area का नहीं है. I think you got so many
No,
defense guys coming to your shows, yeah. They'd
no.
be
See,
eminently equipped to answer.
this is a deployment which has been happening for the past 2 years. There are close to about 20,000 soldiers of Chinese which are there in Gilgit-Baltistan and in another airfield in either Sagoda or one of these airfields in the south central part of Pakistan as well. The reason is
Okay.
because a lot of people speculate कि ये लोग बैठे हैं वहां पर because these places actually base the J10s. So they kind of protect their own assets there. And the J10s are basically Chinese. They've painted
Mm.
Pakistani flags on them, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the Pakistanis have paid them 1 rupee. So, and these are bases where Chinese want to in the future kind of occupy so that they can operate out of. For these attacks that have
Yeah.
happened right now, the first response of the Chinese has been, "Ki please let us get our troops inside so that we can protect our own people." So that is there. This is interesting. He says China would be unstoppable if it didn't fight any of its neighbors.
Actually, yeah, this is one of my pet peeves. I mean, imagine Russia, China, and India all joined together. You have the biggest bloody block in the world, the biggest block in the history of the world has ever seen. Only if China didn't have problems with India and China, China having problems with United States is understandable. ठीक है भाई, तुम्हारा peer competitor है. As far as India is concerned, apart from this border issue, China doesn't have any reason to have problems with India. And like you resolved your border, you have problems with Russia, fine, but you have learned to look beyond that. I'm sure you've got your 2050 wala plan where you want to eventually get into Russia and all. Only if you live long to see that. I'm talking about China, but you've like put your differences across, put your differences aside, and you're getting along with Russia. What stops you from doing the same with India? It's like China doesn't have a
Yeah.
very solid reason to uh, consider India as its adversary.
Woke up a sleeping tiger. Last few
Yeah,
questions. Jyotirmayji, thank you so much. He says Dibrugarh is the second capital of the Ahom Empire. That time, Dibrugarh is more powerful than Delhi, thanks to Congress, who neglected the Northeast for the past 70
Northeast for
years.
70 years. Yeah.
Sorry about
I've
that.
got
Yeah,
a
that's all we
friend.
can say.
I've I've got a friend called Siddharth Sharma. I think he stays in England these days. He's a writer, quite younger than me. He wrote a book. He wrote an essay called "The Narrow Road to Northeast." Wonderful essay. He's an Assamese. He's a Nepali, but born and brought up in Assam, in Guwahati. So आदि में तुमको भेजेगा वो. You read that essay. The narrow
Sure.
road to northeast. He writes
Sure.
wonderfully about how home tribes came in and their fight with the Naga guys and etc. etc. A lot of information, and it's basically a travelogue kind of a thing. I'll share it with you.
So, thought provocator. This is an interesting one. I think this is a reaction to what I was talking about, my theory of these two attacks. He says, when China runs away, they will demand their money back from Pakistan, and Pakistanis can say, "Kaisa paisa? Pehle kaam to khatam karo."
चाइना का पैसा गया एंड आई थिंक चाइना अंडरस्टैंड्स दैट
Yeah.
भागने के टाइम में ना पाकिस्तान इतना अमेरिका के पॉकेट में चला जाएगा कि चाइना घूम के पूछेगा भी नहीं कि यार मेरा पैसा दो पूछने का पोजीशन में नहीं रहेंगे.
Gee. So Vishal was saying the per secret was that they're planning to have a PK, which is Bihar, as a replacement of Kashmir. Any signs emerging? I don't see
पीके
that.
इज
Do you?
व्हाट.
Bihar,
पीके बिहार कब से हो गया.
pata nahi. I think that's what PK. He said bracket Bihar. Okay, I don't think
मैं
so,
तो
brother.
मेरे को तो कुछ नहीं दिखा है.
West Bengal might be more of a probability, but Bihar no. Sorry,
ना ना
Bihar.
बिहार नहीं. या
RMS, possible sea confrontation between Russia and NATO. The Russian Pacific Fleet has entered the Red Sea, making its way to the coast of Yemen, where multiple American and British ships are carrying out strikes.
Adi, I think you were covering, you covered something as far as the North Pole and Arctic area and all are concerned. Did you guys discuss
Yeah.
this point?
No, we didn't.
Okay. See, I again, I am a bit of a kind of a guy who thinks a little realistically. Lot of things can go wrong when there is a live war going on. Anything can happen. लेकिन नॉर्मली मेरे को लगता नहीं that Russia or NATO, both of them are in a position where they want to face each other, where they want to confront each other. अब तक तो नहीं है. Now a slight mistake on somebody's part, a slight miscalculation on somebody's part, anything can happen, and then we can come back to this video and say नहीं बोला था, नहीं बोला था. But that's the fun of
I don't know.
live wars. But normally speaking, United States is doing fairly well from their point by pushing in proxies through Ukraine and all. There's no reason to involve what Macron kuch bhi bole. There's no reason to involve NATO directly. Now a lot of things can go wrong, so you never know.
So that question, my apologies to everybody, and especially Vishal, especially Vishal. He says, will Prashant Kishore PK become another Kejriwal
Oh,
K? So,
oh. अच्छा. No idea.
यार बाल सफेद हो रहे हैं भाई. SMS लिंगो में प्लीज ऐसे मत करो मेरे
नहीं
साथ.
समझ. हाँ.
सीधा सीधा लिखो यार. Shashank Kothari ji, he says firstly thank you. He says role of illegals for Russia or World War III.
नहीं समझे.
Is the role of
His role of
illegals is for Russia or World War III?
अच्छा वो यूएस वाला इलीगल. देखो प्राइमरी रोल ऑफ इलीगल इज टू इंक्रीज जो बाइडेन्स वोट बैंक because there's a lot of Spanish and black people who have come out in the open and said that they're going to vote for Trump. Now they are going to do the election manipulations to their best ability, but this is a kind of a buffer which they're trying to keep. And as I said, वो मैं मजाक मजाक में बोल रहा था ज्योति बासु का आत्मा and all of that fact. But the thing is that yes, he's taken a leaf out of the CPIM playbook, and they're pushing in illegal immigrants so that they can vote for the Democrat Party so that they win. That is point number one. Point number two, what Adi was saying is yes, there is a fair probability of these guys being pushed into the army because army recruitment बहुत कम हो गया. Statistic ढूंढोगे आपको गूगल में मिल जाएगा, stats ढूंढोगे तो आपको मिल जाएगा कि over the past 20 years army recruitment has really trickled down. It's come to, and especially United States Army का भी तुम देखोगे अगर if you look at the senior cadre of the army, most of them are woke, most of them are into diversity, equality, blah blah blah, equity, पता नहीं क्या क्या. Half of them are trans, half of them dress like women. With all due respect to women, I don't mean to sound racist or sound anything, but the thing is that a man dressing up like a woman in an army doesn't sit well. You start doubting his capability to fight. He may be a very brainy guy, but army, frontline army is a lot of bronze. So that doesn't like sort of raise your confidence. So they know that, and they have been employing irregulars since the 1960s and the 1970s when they started getting into fight through jihadis and all. So any reason why they should not be doing that now for their own army? So they will try to do it. And for the same reason that they're trying to do the same in Russia, in Europe. जो आदि के तुम्हारे ही साथ मैं बोल रहा था ना कि one of the a few of the analysts think that when the time is right, they're going to push this Islamist immigrants as far east as possible and set up some border issues with Russia. That's the plan that a lot of people think that is one of the reasons why they're pushing in so much of illegal immigrants into Europe.
वो होगा नहीं ना, because Poland ने जो किया, that's a clear example. AA, thank you so much. He says many ex-diplomats are joining the BJP. What is the reason behind them joining the BJP? Wow, that they have seen how Modi works from close quarters. I'm happy because Modi ji gave us Jai Shankar Sahab. Each one will have their individual reasons, but I guess a lot of people want to be part of the foreign policy gambit of it. And I think, to my mind, I think it's about expansion of the foreign policy game as well. As you grow bigger, you'll need more and more people kind of doing the narrative game of it. Jai Shankar ji's role will also need to be, brought up into kind of, I would say, deputy prime minister sort of a thing. So that's just my opinion. And second last, Harsha ji says, Adi sir, I asked you about a journalist who looks like from our ethnicity and keeps asking those questions to USA and UN press conference. He is Mohammad Faraz Ansari from Bangladesh, who's friends with Raga. I spoke about this in the afternoon, Harsha ji. As a matter of fact, he's very deeply connected with the Jamaat as well. And of course, yes, he's a graduate of the OCCRP. And last one, ये बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग है, सीमा जी का ऑब्जर्वेशन है, बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग है. She says there is a clause when Pakistan signed these agreements, if there is terrorism or national calamities, Pakistan is not liable to follow the agreement. This clause can help them against China and Iran.
Okay, so this clause when they signed for CPEC
and that pipeline with Iran.
Okay, so if that is, that puts Pakistan in a safe spot. So, you have got earthquake, you've got dams breaking, you've got terrorists striking. That puts me, if I'm Pakistan, that puts me in a safe spot that I am not responsible. Everything is somebody else's fault. You can't hold me responsible. Fine. But what we were trying to do, or what Adi was trying to analyze is what would be Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan's gain if they strike China? What would be Afghanistan Taliban's gain if they strike China? So that Pakistan is out of the picture anyway. Pakistan ka zameen Pakistan ka hi nahi hai. Whoever's coming in and trying to utilize it in whatever ways they think best suits them. So we were just trying to examine the angle of Afghanistan here, that what good is going to do to Afghanistan to strike China.
Yeah, but this is a very
Adi, you want to add something?
Very interesting comment. I'm going to do some research on this, Seemaji. If you have have some details, please send it to me. I'm going to do some research because to me this kind of seems a little interesting. And अगर ऐसा कुछ निकलता है, So then you know what the Pakistanis are kind of trying to do. So that's going to be like a game changer. So thank you for putting that thought across, and I will be sure, you know, to come back to you guys about that. Arindam Saab, thank you so much. My apologies for getting hit by the internet. So
Arey, I am the one who's got hit. You didn't. So I'm really sorry. This kind of a mess
no, no,
never
no.
happened before, but yeah.
That's all
So
right. That's perfectly all right. You are Ghar Ka Baat. I mean, we have people watching and they still enjoy what we're listening to. But guys, my apologies for the internet. Shit happens, so can't really do much about it. But we shall be back tomorrow for another whole set of weekend specials. As you guys know, I shall see you tomorrow. And Arindam Saab, finish your travels, man. Finish your work. Let's get back to our regular schedule so that we can talk geopolitics. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
thank you. Good night.
Good night.